I thought I was recording a video, and I was just talking to myself because I never hit record. That's what all of this is anyway. This is all just talking to the self, isn't it? Even what appears to be myself talking to yourself, it's all the same self. It's all the same self, ultimately, at the source. But what a wonderful thing it is, that source is multifaceted, infinitely faceted, in fact, because it contains the all. And so the experience of that self experiencing itself, is the experience of infinite selves in their infinite diversity. And each of those experiences is equally valid and valued and important and beautiful, and only adds to the whole, only adds to this knowledge of self, which is ever expanding and becoming more. This self is infinite. There is only more to experience. There is no end of experience. I was musing about reputation and what that word means. And I have some notes on a page that I was referencing. And whether or not I'm supposed to reference those notes, there's no supposed to. It doesn't matter. But I was musing about reputation, saying, what is reputation? Reputation is how others perceive this persona. Other personas, specifically, other personas, egos, perceiving and judging this ego, persona, personality, whatever you want to call it. I am using those words interchangeably in this instance. Ego being the mind-made self, the character that we are playing for this incarnation, which is free to change, actually. Sure, the body remains the same. Legally, the name may or may not remain the same. You can change that too. But it is not so different from creating a character, from rolling a new class in a role-playing game, crafting your new character. This is who you're going to enter the world as. This is who you're going to play. And the reputation of that character, that persona, essentially means the way that other personas perceive your persona. So what does that mean about the self? That means nothing to the self. Why would you defend a reputation? The self has no need to defend the reputation of a character. Perhaps if identified with it, that character would feel a need to defend itself. But inhabiting the space of the true self, recognizing this persona is just that. It's a story. It's imagined. It's created. And that which I am, that which all of us is the author of this story, the creator of this character. And so, as the creator, why do I feel any need to defend this character against other characters? Because there's no judgment author to author. Self to self, soul to soul, there's no judgment there. There's discernment, but there's no judgment. In fact, there is appreciation only. There is admiration. There is pure appreciation of creation for creation's sake, author to author. There is recognition of what art has been born from another author which shares the same muse, the same divine spark and inspiration. What a wonder it is to be an artist and to see another artist creating. There is such appreciation. You don't care what they're creating. You love it. Genuinely. Because it was created, because it was born from passion, from desire, from a movement of energy, birthed into being. That is marvelous. That is miraculous. There is only appreciation for the characters that populate this realm, for the authors that have created them. So it matters not whether one character is decided, written in to dislike another character. That has no meaning to the realm of authors and their association with one another. Should an author be offended if their character is disliked by another character, which they have co-authored into existence, because we are all assisting in the creation of one another's stories and the clarification of the characters that we're playing, adding further, developing them further in detail? Should there be offense to that? We're in a great big writing workshop together. We're all workshopping this for fun. For fun. That's it, because it's fun. Look at this character that I have created. Here's their backstory. Here's their reasonings. We give all of these details, and then we take that character out and introduce them to other characters so that we get to bounce around and develop them more. More details added to this character's story, and we create drama and tension and conflict. Why? Because it's interesting. There's nothing serious happening there. It's all just a part of the story. Sure, if you get really sucked in, if you're fully identified with that character and you forget who you really are, the one that created it, then it can feel pretty immense. It can feel pretty big. Then you are the center of that drama, and it feels like a mighty big deal. But it ain't no big deal. It is all a story, and that which you are is not affected by any of it. That which you are is the author of this story. And that doesn't mean that this story isn't important. It doesn't mean that what is being experienced here isn't real or really happening. This is as touch it, taste it, feel it, smell it real as it gets. There's just more to reality than this. There's just more that's more real in other more persistent ways than this. But this is real. It is a real experience. It is a real experience that is really happening. And it's valued. And it's important. And it is driving creation. In a lot of ways, what we are experiencing here, we're internalizing and taking back and adding more to the story. More things that we want to see. It's all a great big brainstorming process. We are all collectively workshopping the story of existence. How incredible is that? That's pretty fucking amazing. But I think it's very valuable and important to remember that who you truly are is the author. Yes, you have born this creation into existence. That which you might call the self, this smaller self. I would refrain from calling it that. Things get confusing. I know they have for my experience. It's a personality, but who you are is that which is sort of wearing and experiencing this personality. That's the story. The story of this lifetime. the story of likes and dislikes, and that's all well and good. That's all well and good. We're here to unify the experience. We're here to be one, having an experience of two, and to then reunify the experience of two into one with the power of our infinite perspective, which is not limited. When you're identified as the character, it becomes very limited, and you struggle to perceive the rest of yourself. When you're identified as the rest of yourself, when the dominant part, or at least a significant portion of your awareness, is in this space of the author, and I mean that which is persistent throughout lifetimes, that which is persistent throughout all of life experience, that which is life itself, that which is very much conscious and aware, but is not so attached to the form and to the characters. An author writes many books, right? Many books, many different genres, many characters, many stories taking place. And has perhaps a level of affection and appreciation for each of them, in their differences, in their nuance. There's no favorites. There is greater clarification, however, and perhaps we discover we have more interest in exploring this universe with this character in this set of features. We want to explore what that would be like, what that feels like. But ultimately, the self is unchanging. The self is all. The self is everything. It's infinite and it's complete already. It's not missing anything. It's just continuing to explore the infinite facets of itself. Here we have the chance to consciously create, to be authoring the story that we are experiencing, and hold our awareness, which is split, in two places at once. We're not going to get into that. To unify that split consciousness by, it's almost like overlaying it, by holding all of it in awareness, by standing predominantly in the place of the awareness of space, of the stage, of the author, the space in which this story is unfolding. And a part of the story is the character and everything that is happening to the character and all the other characters that character meets. Identifying predominantly as the stage on which this opera is unfolding, is playing out. And then what occurs in the experience of the character becomes interesting in a way that is not so serious, not so heavy. The way that reading a book doesn't feel so heavy as having actual life experience, because you're not as invested in it. It's possible to, because we have that power to get really invested again and to identify with those characters. But if you are in this outside perspective, where you're appreciating the unfolding of this story and the events that are taking place and the other characters you are meeting, then there's an ease and a flow to things that isn't quite there when you're identified with the character. Furthermore, there is a sense of connection to the self, the true self. And when you are connected to the true self, you are able to connect truly to other true self. So we're still here connecting. It's not saying nothing here matters and the other people that you encounter are just personas. No. They're authors too. There's a character and there's an author. Both existing. And what's really amazing is when you get to meet another who is consciously authoring, and you meet them on the level of author. And you each are knowing one another as the author, as the soul, as the self. And so you get to play with these forms, with these personas, with these characters, but you never confuse the character for the self in you or in them. And there's so much love, there's so much appreciation. And it's fun too. It doesn't matter the role of the character that you're witnessing or how conscious the author is in the creation. You get to witness both. You get to witness this character and you get to witness the author, and perhaps they're really invested in that role. And just like seeing an actor who is maybe a method actor and is living and breathing this role, you feel an appreciation, an immense appreciation for the depth that this author is willing to go to really sell this, to experience this, their character, that which they've created. And again, you have so much love for the creation, for the character, simply because it exists. And you have love for the author simply because they exist. And there is just marvel in this whole creative process. And oh my God, I love it. I love that you are doing this. I love that we are doing this. Fucking go us. This is amazing. We are amazing. Brilliant, creative, genius. Evident everywhere, happening everywhere, all of the time. All of it perfect. All of these roles and all of these creators, perfect. So fucking beautiful. That's all that's happening. A big, beautiful, co-created story where we get to experience everything. Everything that we can dream up. And you know what? We've experienced quite a lot of things over the many thousands of years that we've been doing this. And that's just on planet Earth. Again, not going to get into that. But through our experiences, we've expanded as a self. And we're starting to hone in on what kinds of experiences we would like to continue to create. Now that we've tried and tasted quite a few of them, and there's still contrast, there's always going to be contrast because we want that. How boring, you couldn't tell the difference between anything if there wasn't contrast. You couldn't. That's what contrast is. It would just forever be white, like a white page. You couldn't see anything. You would not be able to discern without contrast. We were never intended to judge contrast. That's a habit of the character, which is believing that it is real and in this story and things really impacted in a visceral way. And then we develop these judgments. Contrast is here for helping us discern. There's no judgment in discernment. Discernment occurs when judgment falls away. There's no emotion in discernment. There's no feeling in it. There's no repulsion. It's just yes, no. It's just clarity. It's just more of this, less of that. Drop that down. It's just if there is any feeling, it is just not inclined towards. It's very subtle. It's very pure. It's very true. It's clear, crystal clear. It is that feeling of yes and no, but there's no judgment. There's no good and bad. There's no right and wrong. It is a very subtle, calling it preference is even maybe a strong word, but I would call it preference. It's just an inclination towards this or a disinclination towards that. That's it. No judgment whatsoever. This is not right and wrong, good or bad. It is the difference between seeing black and white. One is not better than the other, but perhaps one draws you towards it, and you're only able to see the difference when they're side by side. You're only able to feel that inclination when you have this contrast. And ultimately, it's all accepted, it's all beautiful, it's all appreciated. There is nothing wrong in all of creation. Anyways, I have now rambled on and mused far more organically than in my original non-recording of this, so that's fun. Fun for me, and it doesn't matter if it's fun for anyone else. I know the author in all of us appreciates creation for creation's sake. And that is far more than enough. You know what? No, that is exactly enough. I would like to stop using the word enough and meaning not enough, because that is a habit that I have noticed in more than just my experience, but it is precisely enough. What is enough? Enough is exactly enough. Enough is the right amount. That's what enough is. Enough is the right amount. More than enough and it spills over and it's lost. Not quite enough and it's not quite there. Enough is what you are. Enough is what all of this is. Enough is the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold, not too soft, not too firm. Enough is exactly the right amount. It is exactly, perfectly, splendidly enough that the author in myself sees the author in another self. Same self, creative, inspired, divine, and finds joy, finds appreciation. And I know that each author is feeling that for every other instance of itself, of ourself. The love of creator for creator is perfect. It is utterly unconditional, which means it loves every condition that is created. It simply appreciates creation and marvels at creation for creation's sake, for the joy of it, for the joy of being. It is being, witnessing being, and thrilling in it. And that is precisely, splendidly, blissfully enough. Just right. And so is this. And of course, as was said, but bears repeating, so are you. And you are very much aware of that. Well done, Creator.